Hello and welcome to another video from S15 Studio. I would appreciate if you can like and subscribe and leave any video recommendations down in the comments section. Be sure to check out my website s15studio.com where I have courses on Revit and AutoCAD. I'm currently running a 50% off sale on my Revit course, beginner to advanced level, so be sure to check that out before it expires. In this video, we'll be covering all aspects of the interface. Now that our download and install is complete, the program will open automatically. If it doesn't, just double click on the icon on your home screen to open up the software. Every time we start Revit, we're presented with the start screen. So I'm going to take you through the different sections on the start screen, starting with the top left. So here in the top left, we have the Revit symbol and then the project screen symbol, which we can toggle between the two and it will go into our project screen. And currently everything is grayed out as we haven't began a project. So we'll click back on the home symbol here. Starting over on the left hand side, we have models. So we have open and new. If we select open, it'll go into our common drive where we're able to select our past projects. If we select new, we're presented with the new project dialog box. We're able to select various templates. If the template doesn't appear that you want, you can also choose the browse option, which again will bring us into our common drive and we can select our template there. Below that we have create new, so we can create a new project or we can create a new project template. So I'm just going to cancel out of this to bring us back to our start screen. Then continue with the models. Over on the right hand side we have the recent files. So as we haven't actually opened any models yet, we are presented with the sample projects. But as we begin to create our own models, they will be displayed here in the recent files. Then coming back over to the left, we have our families. Again, we have open and new, so we can open and go into our common drive, or we can create new. And over in the recent files, it will show some sample families for us to explore. Again, once we start creating families, those recent files will appear here. Next over, we have recent files and Autodesk Docs. So you can see recent files is currently highlighted, showing our recent files. And then below that, we have Autodesk Docs. So that will connect to your online account where you're able to access and share documents to colleagues and clients. Below that, we have what's new. So if we select what's new, it'll bring us to the Autodesk website and it will show what's currently been released and what's new within Revit so we can update our skills. And then below that we have online help as well as a community forum. Again, this will bring us to the Autodesk website where you can get help if stuck. If there's something you're struggling to do, believe me, you're not the first person. So there will be plenty of people on the communities talking on the forum where they'll give you step-by-step guides on how to resolve your issue. As well, you can post and chat with them. Below that is the customer support. This is the Autodesk customer support. So if you're having trouble with the actual software, not how to use the software, but particular problems with the software, for example, the libraries are corrupt, the software isn't loading, here is where you'll access that. And through your Autodesk account, you'll be able to speak with the support team and they'll be able to help you with your technical issues. So for the duration of this course, what I'm going to be using for a template is the architectural metric template. The reason we always begin with the architectural template is this is the basis for all other templates. Once you master the architectural template, you can then move on to the mechanical, electrical, or plumbing templates, and all the skills that you've learned from the architectural template, you can transfer them over to the structural or plumbing, for example. So we're going to get started. We'll click on new. We'll go to our template file. And in here, I have various different templates. This may look different to you as I've added in some myself, but the main thing that we want to find is the architectural template. If you don't have any of these templates, please go back to the previous video where I take you through the process of setting up the templates, ensuring that all of the files are in the correct folders. And then once you've done that, come back to this point of this video and then we'll select architectural template and press OK. So we're now in our first project. So I'm going to take you through the interface of the project. Starting at the top left, we have File. Where we select File, it'll look very similar to other softwares where we have New, Open, Save, Save As, Export, Print, and Close. So if you just hover over one of those icons, it'll display an additional folder. In there, we're able to create a new project, a new family, conceptual mass, a new title block, or an annotation symbol. Then coming over to Open, we're able to open a cloud model, a project, family, Revit file, and so on. In some of these additional folders, there's a small little arrow. If you hover over that, it'll pull down the list and display what's next. Next over, we have Save to save our current project. We can save as to save this current project in the cloud. We can save it as a different project, so we can give it a new name. We can also save it as a template. And we can also save all of the loaded families that we would create within this project and put them into our library. Next over, we have Export. So we can export various different file formats within Revit. First are our CAD formats. We have DWG, DXF, DNG, OBJ, ACIS, and STL. We can also export PDF, DWF, FBX, our family types, our GBXML, which is our energy analytics, IFC. So our IFC file is a common file format for our data that we're going to export, which will display all of our BIM information. And scrolling down, we have a ODBC database, as well as images and animations, which we'll create later. We can export full reports. We can also set our export options for CAD and IFC. Next over is our print, so we can just do a simple print. We can do a batch print, so we can do a large number of drawings at once. We can do a print preview, as well as setting up our printing options. Over here in the blank section here, this is our recent documents. So as we begin to open up projects, save them, and so on, they'll all be displayed here in this panel. So what we're going to do now is we're going to save this project. And what I'm going to do is put mine on the desktop, and we're going to leave the name as Project 1. And once we've navigated our project to the desktop, we'll keep the file name as Project 1. We'll press Save. Now that we've saved, when we come back to our file, we'll see there's our Project 1 in our recent documents. And you'll notice on the right-hand side, we have a small pin. So this pin allows us to lock that project in at the top of our list. So we can have 10 plus drawings in our recent documents. If there's one project that we're going to come back to again and again, we can add the pin, meaning that no matter when we come back to this recent document section, our Project 1 will always be pinned at the top. Then coming down to the bottom, we have Close, which will close our current project. And at the bottom right, we have Exit Revit, which will close down the software. And here we have our options, which we've gone through in the last video. Coming over to the right-hand side, we have our Quick Access toolbar. In here are various tools that we're going to be using time and time again. So they'll be displayed within our Quick Access toolbar. A lot of similarities to AutoCAD are transferred over to Revit. So very quickly, we can open, save, we can synchronize our model, which we'll cover later. We have undo, redo, print, convert to PDF. We have activate control dimensions. So this will disable the temporary dimensions or pins, which will become more apparent as we progress. Next, we have our quick measurement tool. To the right of that, we have our dimension tool. Then we have a tag by category, adding text. We have a 3D view option, which will transfer us over from our current 2D view over to 3D. Next, we have a section view. We have thin lines. which will convert our thick lines into thin lines, making it more clear when we're drawing. Over to the right, we have close inactive views. So when we open up multiple views in our project, when we have too many, we can actually close them down. So if the project is becoming a little slow, what we can do is we can close down any inactive views. Next, we have switch windows. Again, when we have our views open, we use this tool here to switch between those windows. And to the far right, we have the customization option. Again, same like in AutoCAD, we can turn options on and off. Over to the right, we have our info center, same setup as AutoCAD, where we're able to sign into our account. We can buy apps, go to the help center. So now we're going to come down to the main ribbon section. Exactly the same setup as AutoCAD, so your knowledge will be able to easily transfer over to this. So we start with our tabs at the top. Everything is nice and neatly organized for us in those tabs. So our first tab is the architecture tab, where this will be our main used tab throughout the modeling process. As well, we have our insert, annotate, analyze, our view, manage, and modify. Within each of these tabs, we have what are called ribbons. So every tab has a ribbon which displays all of our tools here. And the ribbons are organized into panels. So first one is our select panel, which has our modify tool, which allows us to select components. Within the build panel, this is where we'll create our walls, doors, windows, roofs, and ceilings. Circulation for railing, ramps, and stairs. Model for our model text and lines. Room area, where we can create rooms, display the area. Our opening panel to insert openings into walls and roofs. The datum panel for our grids and levels, and our work plane to set our work plane. Because we are working in a 3D environment, we must set our work planes against the face of our object so the software knows exactly where we want to place our materials or cut out openings in walls. Again, all of this will become more apparent as we progress. Over to the right here, we have our navigation bar. This allows us to zoom, pan within the drawing. If you used the wheel in AutoCAD and you were used to that, you can do that without no problem, but you'll find it much easier and quicker just to simply use a mouse and the keyboard. But this is your personal preference, whichever way you find easiest to model, please use either. Then we have our different zoom options within region, zoom out, to fit, and so on. Next, over to the left-hand side, we have our properties palette, and below that is our project browser. These are two very important palettes that must always be open throughout the entirety of using Revit. If you've accidentally closed them down, not to worry, don't worry about that at all. We will come over to our View tab, and at the end of the ribbon, we have User Interface. In here, we're able to turn them on and off. So there's our project browser. If I turn it off, it's now gone. And if I turn it back on, it comes back. So if you've accidentally closed it down, just come over to the View tab, User Interface, and we can turn them on and off here. Come back to the Architecture tab. So our Properties palette. So this is a modeless dialog where you can view and modify the parameters that define the properties of elements. Basically, what we select within Revit, the properties of whatever we select will be displayed in the properties palette. So currently there's nothing selected in our project, so it is displaying the properties of this view, which is level 0. Now I have level 0, but you may have level 1. It all depends on the version of Revit you've downloaded and installed, but we're going to change that name later anyway, so it's no big issue. So I have level 0. This is my view. Properties palette is displaying the properties of that view. So it's showing there I have my level 0, showing the view scale is 1 to 100, which is also the scale value. We have our display model. We have normal, halftone, and do not display. So if I quickly draw a wall, here we're showing the normal display mode. If I change that to halftone, it'll half the tones of that wall, so it'll become grayed out essentially. So the purpose of using this will be if we are drawing our house and it's an existing house, so there's no changes or refurbishments to the actual house. So we don't need to display the outline of that house in full detail. So we just half the tone, and then all of the new refurbished work will be full tone within the drawing. I'll change that back to normal. Next down we have detail level. It's currently set to fine. So fine is the maximum detail level. So it will display all information of that wall. We have medium. For this particular wall, there's no medium detail, so that's why we don't see any changes. And we have coarse. So all detail of that wall is gone, and all we see is the same wall but grayed out, so there's no materials shown within that wall. So parts visibility. This will cover a bit more detail later on. I just want to quickly go through all of the interface so you have an understanding. I don't want to go too deep into certain sections at this point, just to give you a good idea of the interface first. So next we have our visibility graphics. In here we're able to change, we can change how they appear in our drawing. We can also turn them on and off so they're not displayed. We have various tabs for that. First is our model categories. So we know our model categories are the columns, the walls, and that kind of thing. Next, we have our annotation categories. So our texts, dimensions, tags, and so on. Analytical model categories. So all of the analytical information within Revit. This is where it will be displayed. Any imported documents into our Revit file. So like say a CAD file or an image, they will be displayed here. And we have a filter, so we can filter out information that we don't want to be displayed. Again, I'm just glossing over this for now. We'll go into a bit more detail later. Next is the graphics display. So once we've created our model, we're able to change how it appears for certain reasons. So we have our various different styles. We have the wireframe, hidden line, shaded, consistent colors, and realistic. If you were using 3D within AutoCAD, these would be familiar to you. These will become more apparent as we progress a little more. They're just various different displays of what we're creating. So wireframe will be completely transparent. We'll be able to see all of the construction lines in behind everything. So everything will be displayed. Right up to realistic, where we'll see the realistic image of the brick, the block, the insulation, absolutely everything up to a rendered standard. So a few other options we have, we can add, change shadows, we can make the lines sketchy. So if we're doing a nice proposal, we're able to give the lines a sketch appearance. So if you're submitting some proposals to a client, you want it to make it look a little bit more like you've drawn it by pencil. If you use SketchUp, this is the same idea here. Depth queuing, what we're able to do is we're able to pull information to the forefront as well as push it back. So for example, if there's a wall in the forefront and a wall to the back, if there's no depth between those, what we can do is we can add depth to push that wall that's to the rear further in the picture, just to add more depth to the project. These types of things you're not going to do at the beginning of a project. Once the project is finished, finalized, and you're going to put it on a sheet to send off, this is when you'll start to play with these features to make it look more realistic and presentable. Same with the lighting scheme and how realistic it looks. So we'll cancel that. Next, we have our orientation, so our project north. What we can do is we can orient it correctly to north, south, east, east, west, place it in our drawing, and we can then actually rotate the project so we have a nice 90-degree angle walls in our view to help us model. But we know that the position of the building is true to its actual position on the site. Same setup as if we were to change our UCS within AutoCAD. Next, we have our discipline. So this is referring to our templates. So we're able to change over to the various different templates through here. So the architectural template allows us to create and model everything. The other templates have various different features. Some have more and some have less. So for example, the structure will focus mainly on the structure of the building, i.e. the columns and beams. So there's no need to add in doors and windows within this. So the main focus for that will be in the structural. Same for the mechanical and electrical. The main focus will be how to build the electrical side of the building, running cables, inserting lights, and so on. But for the beginning, we're going to stick with the architectural template so we can develop our project. And further on, we'll cover these in more detail as we progress. The underlay simply is showing our range of view. So if we had information below the building and it's not being displayed, we can change the range of view to show the information below. We'll put this into practice later on. Same with our extents. Basically, this is our cropping view. So when we build our project, when we put it onto our sheet, if we don't want to display a lot of the information around the building, we want it to focus on one main piece, we're able to just crop that out without having to delete it or modify that building to not display the information. We can just simply crop the view. Next down is our identity data. First in is our view template. So when we have various different purposes for our project, we can assign a view template. So we will develop one later on in the course, but for example, if we build our project and it's at planning stage, there's no need to show all of the internal detailing of that, all of the wall joins and high detail work at this stage. So we can create a view template where it will apply a coarse view to all of the internal work. So it's just all grayed out. And the main focus is just simply the design of our project. Then we have our view name, which is level 0. We can add a title to this project, which will display on our sheet. And phasing. Again, briefly what phasing is. If we were creating a brand new building from scratch, we would just use our new construction phase. If we were taking an existing building and simply doing a refurbishment, what we can do is we can create the project first on the existing phase. We can build our project, build the existing house, and then once we've done that, we'll transfer over to our new construction, which will gray out the building. We can then apply the new refurbishment work to our project, which means that we don't have to create an existing plan and a new proposal plan. It saves us doubling up on our work. We just simply build one project and apply all the information to that. So that's just our view properties. If I select my wall, the properties palette changes. So it's now displaying the properties of this wall. The first thing here is called our type selector. In here is where we can select all of our various wall types, and these are just simply the wall types that are provided to us. As we progress, we'll be creating our own wall types, so we can save them in here. We can save them to a template, so every time we start a new project, our wall types will be displayed. At the beginning of your Revit career, you're going to be using these just to start to understand how to develop them, but we're going to be creating our own as we progress. It'll then, next down is our constraints, how we constrain our wall within the project. So first one down is our location line. This means when we place our wall, where is our location line? And if you see the blue dot here running right down to there, if I select it, we'll see there is the dashed blue line, which is our location line. So it's how we place our wall. If I change that to finish face interior, it's now changed to the inner side of that wall and to the exterior, so to the external face of that wall. So depending on how you get your dimensions for your project and how you want to place them, this is how you'll choose that with your location line of how you want to draw and place your wall. Next down is the base constraint. So where do we want the bottom of our wall to be constrained to? And it'll always be on the level that you're currently in the view. So our view is level 0, so our base constraint is level 0. This, of course, you can change, but by default, it'll always be level 0. Below that, we have our base offset. So if we wanted our wall to come down and start at level 0, but we wanted the wall to protrude further down by, say, 100 mil, we can add in -100 and the wall will extend below the level line by -100. We can also go up if we wish. And our top constraint is where does the top of that wall constrain to? If we use unconnected, the top of the wall won't be constrained to a level, and we can just simply assign a height to that wall. And we can also add an offset to that. And the important parts for this will be our dimensions. So here it's displaying the length, the total area, as well as the volume. So you'll notice as I change the length, it updates automatically within the properties palette. So this is a very powerful tool for us. We no longer have to go in and measure what's the measurement of that wall, what is the total area of that. Simply we just select our components and the properties palette will display that automatically. So we don't have to do any additional work. It saves us a lot of time. Next down we have identity data. First is our image. So what we can do is if this is a particular wall type, or if, for example, if I make this a window, we can add in an image of the actual window from the supplier. So we can just add in information into this component, which will be displayed. We can add in certain comments to this. So for example, with the comments for the wall, the comments we can add in will be a particular brick type, for example, or the position of that wall. It's up to you. So the mark is simply just a number that's applied to every component in Revit. As we start to produce schedules, the mark will become more apparent. Again, I'm just giving you a very brief overview of everything, but as we move forward, all of this information will become more understandable. Again, here's our phasing. So this wall was created in the new construction phase. And here we can add in demolition. So if this was created in the existing phase, we can use our demolition tool to demolish that wall. And when we go to our new construction phase, the wall won't be displayed. Next is our IFC parameters. So this is the data which we can then export from this wall component and apply it to our data sheets. So this is where BIM starts to come into play. All this information is very powerful, saves us a lot of time, saves a lot of human error of entering in data manually. Once we apply the information to these components, all of these parameters are automatically organized and we can schedule and get information easily, quickly from this data. Next down is our project browser. So first is our views. So our views are referring to the floor plans, ceiling plans, 3D views, and elevations. So next we have the views within our project browser. When we are creating a project, we create one single project. We're not creating multiple floor plans, multiple views, multiple elevations, sections, and so on. All we do is we create one house, one building, and from that we extract views, we extract sections, elevations, everything, and everything is organized for us within the project browser. It is very important to not leave things named incorrectly. It's very important to label all of your floors and elevations correctly so they're easily found, they're easily referenced. So when you come to the end of your project and you're applying views to be printed or shared or to be accessed easily, it's very important to label them. Next down is our ceiling plans. Whatever floor plan we have level 0 and level 1, will automatically be generated for a ceiling plan. A ceiling plan will have a default height of 2,600 millimeters. So when we open up our ceiling plan view, it'll be the same ground floor plan, for example, or level 0, but the view will be from 2.6 meters high, meaning that we can apply a ceiling, add in lights, and we know that the height by default will be 2.6 meters high. Of course, this value is just a default value offered. We have full control of that level and we can change it as we wish. Next down will be our 3D views, which will become more apparent as we progress, and our elevations. So our elevations are controlled by these 4 bubbles. Top one here is our north view. There we have our east view, west and south. These bubbles will be there by default as when we start a project. We have full control of being able to move them where we wish. As not all projects are the same size-wise, so we need to be able to move these. And we can also create additional views if we wish. And when we create a new view, it'll be automatically added to our elevations view. When we select our bubble, we'll currently see in our bubble there are 2 dashes. So the reason that there is no information in here is because we have no elevation labeled yet, and we have no sheet number labeled yet. So when we add in a view name, it'll automatically update and be displayed here. So I can't actually change that name or the top. But when we place a elevation onto a sheet, the sheet number will be displayed as well as the view number. So it saves us having to go back, relabel our views and add in the sheet number. As well, it totally eliminates any human error that if you miss one elevation, that the label is incorrect. With the view bubble, if I select the bottom dash, we're displayed two lines, one solid line and one dashed. The solid line is where the view starts. So if your building goes beyond that, we just simply move the line back until the building is completely in. And the dashed one is the depth of our view. So if we only wanted a section of the building to be displayed, we would just pull that back, and whatever below that will not be displayed. If we wanted the entire building to be included, we simply pull it down. So all of those bubbles have the same. Further down we have our legends and schedules, which we'll cover later on. And then we have our sheets, which is our sheet of paper where we'll apply our views and send off for print. Again, these are dynamic. So when we update and change and add in information to our project, all that information will be displayed here. So we don't need to change anything or add in anything. For example, our scale, when we apply a view into that title block, the scale will automatically show that. Then below that we have our families and groups. So any family that's in the drawing will be displayed here, as well as our groups. And any links that we include in our project will be displayed in the Revit links. So I'm going to come back to my floor plan, level 0. Just make sure you're on your floor plan, as by mistake, a lot of people will go back to the seating plan. So I'm on my floor plan, level 0, or we can come up to the tab at the top, close it down, and we're back to our level 0. Down in the bottom left-hand corner here, we have our status bar. The status bar is almost like our command line in AutoCAD. The difference is we don't enter information into it. All it does is it will display tips or hints of what to do next. So as an example, if I select my wall and keeping an eye on the bottom left-hand corner, come into the drawing, it'll tell me to click to enter wall start point, click, and it will again tell me what to do next. So it says enter wall endpoint, like that. So that's just our status bar, which it'll tell you what to do next. Over to the right is our view controls. First thing is our scale. So when we work with AutoCAD, our model space is always at a scale of 1:1. And when we want to apply a scale to our project and print it, we go to our layout or paper space, and we use a viewport and apply the scale to the viewport. What we do in Revit is we actually apply the scale to the view as we're working. So currently our scale is 1:100 on this view. And when we go to print it, it'll be displayed at 1:100. If you wanted to use the same project, but at a scale of 1:50, you need to actually create a new view and give that a scale of 1:50. We will do this towards the end of the course when we start to put our project onto sheets, so I will explain that in more detail. I'm going to zoom in. So if you haven't come from an AutoCAD background, in order to use your mouse to zoom, you'll just use the scroll wheel to scroll in and out. And to pan, click and hold the wheel, and I can pan. So zoom is just using the scroll wheel, and to pan, I will use click and hold. This is how you're going to navigate. So coming over, we have our detail level. So if I select that, there we have coarse, medium, and fine. If you remember back in our properties palette, there we have our detail level. It's currently set to fine. So there I can change it from fine to medium to coarse. There's many different options of how we can do the same thing. It's all personal preference. If you prefer to use the properties palette, please do. I like to use the view controls as they're closer to my drawing space and I find it a lot quicker to use. Next over is our visual style. This is where we have our wireframe, hidden, shade, consistent colors, and realistic. So just to go through these and explain them a little bit more, we'll come up to our quick access toolbar at the top, change over to our 3D view. And how we navigate our 3D view, again, we use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Click and hold the wheel to pan. But now that we're in a 3D space, we need to be able to orbit. So we hold the shift key, hold the wheel, and now we can orbit. If you wanted to orbit and focus on one particular component, select the component and then hold shift and the scroll wheel, and that'll then be the center of your orbit. So coming back to the visual style, if I select wireframe, there we'll see the wall is transparent and we can see the lines in the back. Next is hidden lines, so all those lines are hidden. Shaded, just added some shaded color to it. Consistent colors just keeps the colors consistent and at the same contrast. And then we have full realistic. So here we have the realistic image of those bricks. So when we're modeling, we tend not to use realistic at this stage. The reason being is it's showing a real image, so your computer will be constantly trying to render that image, which will slow down your progress, and the computer will be working overtime constantly to try and keep up. So your model will become laggy. Yes, it does look great, but we want to be able to model quickly and efficiently. So to do that, I'll always use the hidden line. So at this point, you can see I'm getting a pop-up that says, would I like to save? So what I've done is I have applied a 30-minute save option in Revit. So every 30 minutes, I'm going to get this save option. So what I'll do first is I'll save the project. And now we can see we're back to hidden line. So to further explain the saving, so we'll come to File, Save As, Project. And in there we have options. So when we select the options, we're shown the file save options, and it's currently set to a maximum of 3. So when we're creating a file, you can see I've got on my desktop, there's my project 1. Next is project 1.0001. Every time you save, every 30 minutes, it'll save a maximum of 3 files for me, meaning that if I wanted to revert back to 30 minutes ago, I would go back to 001. So project 1 is my current, and then project 001 was my project 30 minutes ago. So a maximum of 3 is really all you'll need, but you can push that up to how many you want. It does mean that you're going to create multiple copies of your project. We'll press OK and cancel that. So that option is very powerful because with AutoCAD, as we know, the automatic or autosave feature isn't very useful. The project truly never saves and you lose all of the information that you've been working with. But within Revit, if Revit crashes, you know that you can confidently go back to your last project, which was saved 30 minutes ago, and all you've lost is 30 minutes of your progress. Okay, so coming back to the view controls. Next over, we have our sun and our shadows. So basically, we're able to apply a sun path to our project, and as well, we're able to cast shadows. This is a huge topic, but we will cover it later on, but we know that we have a quick access to that down below. Next over is our render dialog box. Again, this is a huge topic. We'll cover it later, but this is where we can quickly open our render dialog box. Next, we can turn our crop view on and off once we create one. We can show that crop region. We can lock a 3D view. And the reason you'd want to lock a 3D view, what you can do is you can place the camera in a particular view to show your project. You can then lock it and save that view so you can apply it to your project sheet. And once it's locked, you know that you won't accidentally shift it from its location and that view will always be there. Next, we have temporary hide and isolate, and then we can then reveal them. So what we're able to do is we can temporarily hide objects. So if I select that wall, I can temporarily isolate that entire category. So if I isolate that entire category, only the walls will be displayed. So they're isolated. So all the other information will be removed from the screen, or we can hide that entire category. So the entire walls category will be hidden and all information will be displayed. Or I can simply isolate this particular element. So only that particular element will be isolated, or I can hide only that particular element, as this wall here and this wall here are elements on their own. So if I isolate that element, only this wall will be shown. And when I do, only that wall is now displayed in my view. And you can see I've got a nice big blue outline showing that I'm in my temporary hide isolate. And how I come back from that is I can again select the hide isolate tool and I can just reset it. Or I can select the wall and I can hide that. So then that particular wall element is now hidden. And I can reset it. So if I hide that again, so if I reset the temporary hide isolate, it resets all of my hidden or isolated elements and categories. You could have multiple elements that are hidden. If you reset it, it'll reset everything. So now that I've hidden that wall element, what I now need to do to move forward is apply what I've just done. So I click on apply. So that wall element is now hidden. If I wanted to bring it back, what I do is I come to reveal hidden elements, and there it is there in red. I select it, come over to the top right, unhide element. It's now unhidden, but I need to apply that change. So I go to toggle reveal hidden elements mode. So I exit that and I'm now back in the drawing, and there's my wall back. So next over we have temporary view properties, hide analytical model, highlight displacement sets, and reveal constraints. So it's a little bit technical for that at this stage, so we're going to move forward. We're going to move all the way over to the right where we have our selection toggles. So first is select links. So if we link a file into Revit, into the project, so for example, if I link a AutoCAD plan, if I want my plan to remain, but I keep selecting it and it's getting in the way, what we can do is we can turn off the select links. So if you turn it off, it means you can no longer select that link, but it remains in the drawing. Next over is select underlay elements. So again, if you have any underlays that you don't want to be selected, you can turn them off. And here we have select pinned elements. So anything that has been pinned, we're able to select them. And we have select element by face. So select element by face would be referring to, say, a floor plan. If you kept selecting the floor itself and it's getting in your way of modeling, you can turn off select element by face. So when you click on the floor, when you click on the face of the floor, it's no longer a selected item. Next is to drag elements on selection. So when we place a door or window into a wall, you can accidentally drag it out of position. If we turn that off, you can no longer drag a door or window out of its position. As we start to place those into the drawing, I will show that in more detail. Next is the background processing. So if there's anything processing in the background, you'll see that being displayed here. And over to the right of that are the filters. So if I select this item, you see I've got one selected. Again, if I highlight all, you'll see I've now got 4 elements are selected in the drawing. And if I select them all again, if I select that filter, what I can do is I can actually filter objects out. So if I've selected 2 walls, which is shown here, and 2 levels. If I only wanted the wall selected and not the levels, I can tick it off, apply. They're no longer included in the selection. So I'm able to filter objects out that I don't want to be included. And then lastly, we have our contextual menu. So on the view, if I just right click, I'm shown the contextual menu where we can cancel a process. We can repeat the last command. We can show the last recent commands, select previous, and zoom and so on. This is also dynamic. So if we select the wall and right click, it gives us further options to choose from. So depending on what we select and right click, it gives us different options. Next, we're going to close down the 3D view and we're back to our level 0. So if I double tap the wheel, it's going to center everything for me. So as the interface stands now, it'll always be like this. So we're on the architectural tab. You'll always see these at the top, our properties and our project browser. But as we start to begin to select certain tools, this ribbon will change and the tools and actions attached to that will be displayed for us. So we no longer have to go into our tabs, go into our menu and apply certain actions. All of the actions that can be used will automatically be displayed for us. So for example, if I select the wall, it'll straight away open up the modify tab for us. So all of the modification tools are now being displayed. And what is specific to that wall will be displayed in green. This is called a contextual tab. And within that contextual tab is the contextual panel. All of the actions that we can apply to that wall are now being displayed here. So what we're able to do with the wall tool is we can just draw. So we have various different options of how we can draw. Below that is called our options bar. So when we come to our contextual panel and we choose an option, we'll see the options bar will change. So if I choose my line, the actions that I can use with that line tool are shown in the options bar. If I choose another action, the options bar will change. So it's very fast paced, it's very quick, it's very organized. We no longer have to go searching through our tabs to apply a certain action. When we click on one, the next step will automatically be displayed for us. So it drastically speeds up our modeling process. So to come out of that, I'm just going to press escape. Same like with an AutoCAD, escape to clear. And just some basics with our mouse. So to select an object, one left click will select our object. So to select any object, one left click. The contextual tab is our right click. To pan, we click and hold the mouse wheel. To zoom, we scroll in. And to zoom extents, we double tap the scroll wheel. Other options we have, we can still use our Windows keys, so we can still cut, copy, paste with Control X, Control C, and Control V. You can undo your last action with Control Z, redo your last action with Control Y, and Control Shift will toggle between different drawings. And same like within AutoCAD, we have our object selection. So if I zoom in here, so our window selection will only select an object when it's completely inside our window. So that wall will only become selected when it's inside. Escape. If I go from the bottom right-hand corner up to the top left, we get what is called a crossing selection. So all I have to do is touch the wall and it will become selected. So in AutoCAD, you click once and let go. In Revit, you click and hold. Click and hold, move to the bottom right. So once that wall comes inside, it's now in our window selection. Bottom right to the top left, we have our crossing selection. We just have to touch the wall. To delete objects out of our project, we just simply select it, one click of the mouse, and use the delete key. If you'd like to find out more about Autodesk's Revit, I have a course on my website where I take you from a beginner level right up to an advanced. The course contains 23 hours of content and over 57 lessons. I cover all aspects of the software. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.